A very warm welcome to today's news bulletin from Zir News 24. Today is Sunday, the 22nd of Saraton, 1404 in the Hijri solar calendar, corresponding to July 13th, 2025, in the Gregorian calendar. I'm Damanak White, and as always, I'm here to bring you the most important national and international headlines from Zir News 24. Here are the top stories. The Islamic Emirate and Qatar have discussed elevating diplomatic relations. UNDP says it has provided life-saving aid to 25 million people in Afghanistan since October 2021. Israeli airstrikes continue in Gaza. At least 110 Palestinians killed. And nearly 60 British lawyers call on their government to recognize Palestine as a state. Now for the full reports. Afghanistan and Qatar discuss raising the level of diplomatic engagement. The Islamic Emirates Foreign Minister, Maulawi Amir Khan Muttaqi, met with Qatar's Chargé d'Affaires, Mr. Mirdif Al-Kashuti, in Kabul. They spoke about strengthening bilateral ties, increasing diplomatic cooperation, and addressing regional issues. Muttaqi praised Qatar's consistent support for Afghanistan on regional and international forums. In return, Mr. Al-Kashuti noted the steady growth in relations and reiterated his country's readiness to further support Afghanistan's foreign affairs agenda on multilateral platforms. UNDP, life-saving assistance delivered to 25 million Afghans. Since October 2021, the UN Development Program, UNDP, says it has reached 25 million people across Afghanistan with emergency support and essential social services. This includes access to healthcare, clean energy, education, employment, and support for small businesses, with a particular focus on women and vulnerable communities. UNDP warned that Afghanistan's economic situation remains dire, and access to basic needs is decreasing. The agency emphasized its commitment to continue humanitarian aid operations across the country. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister pledges cancer hospital and agricultural support for Afghanistan. The Islamic Emirates Embassy in Islamabad has confirmed that Afghan Ambassador Sardar Ahmad Shakib recently met with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Chief Minister, Ali Amin Gandapur. The two sides discussed trade, transit, cross-border movement, Afghan refugees, and bilateral cooperation. Gandapur pledged to support the establishment of a cancer treatment hospital in Afghanistan and expressed full readiness to cooperate in the agricultural sector as well. Both parties emphasized strengthening ties between Afghanistan and Pakistan. UNICEF, over 500,000 vaccinated amid rising polio risk. UNICEF reports that since January 2025, more than 522,000 individuals, including children, have been vaccinated in Afghanistan. The report links this surge in vaccinations to the mass return of undocumented Afghans from Pakistan, which began in late 2023 after Islamabad's announcement to deport undocumented individuals. This large-scale return has increased the risk of waterborne and airborne diseases, especially polio. Despite global progress in eradicating polio, the virus remains active in Afghanistan and Pakistan, which together form the last major endemic region. So far in 2025, over 150,000 Afghans, many of them children, have returned from Pakistan. Afghan Interior Ministry calls for increased support in drug control and rehabilitation. The Islamic Emirates Deputy Minister for Counter-Narcotics, Mullah Abdul Haq Akund, met with UNODC officials in Vienna. In meetings with Bo Matines, head of UNODC's operations, and Poliko Kayseri, UNODC's Afghanistan representative, Afghan officials requested enhanced cooperation in alternative crop programs, drug rehabilitation, and support for addicted individuals. UNODC pledged continued support for farmers and efforts to reduce drug dependency in Afghanistan. That wraps up the national updates. Now let's head over to international affairs. International news, Gaza under continuous bombardment as ceasefire talks stall. 110 killed in one day. Israeli airstrikes have once again intensified across Gaza as ceasefire negotiations face serious setbacks. On Saturday alone, at least 110 Palestinians were killed in various airstrikes. Among the victims were 34 individuals who were waiting for food aid outside a U.S.-backed humanitarian center in Rafah. Eyewitnesses say Israeli forces opened fire directly, turning the area into a scene of carnage. In another incident, Israeli jets struck a makeshift tent camp in al-Mawasi, southern Gaza, killing 3 and wounding several others. The UN and human rights organizations condemned these attacks as war crimes and forms of genocide. Hopes for a ceasefire continue to fade, while Gaza's displaced and starving population awaits aid, protection, and peace. Nearly 60 British MPs urge government to recognize Palestine as a sovereign state. Close to 60 lawmakers from the UK's Labour Party have written a letter to Foreign Secretary David Lammy, urging him to recognize Palestine as an independent state. They strongly condemned Israel's actions in Gaza, describing them as part of a broader campaign of ethnic cleansing. The MPs criticized Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, for promoting the idea of building a humanitarian city in Rafah, drawing disturbing parallels to concentration camps. Citing Israeli human rights lawyer Michael Sfard, the MPs argued that Palestinians are being forcibly pushed into southern Gaza in preparation for mass displacement. They urged the British government to take concrete steps and join France's President Emmanuel Macron in backing the immediate recognition of Palestine. Lammy has since hinted that if a ceasefire is not reached soon, the UK may consider stronger actions against Israel. North Korea fully backs Russia's war in Ukraine, says Kim Jong-un. During a high-level meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un expressed unconditional support for Russia's actions in Ukraine. The two sides met in Wonsan for their second strategic dialogue, where they discussed deepening defense ties, joint military agreements signed in 2024, and further strategic coordination. Kim echoed Russia's position on the conflict and praised President Putin's efforts to address the roots of the crisis. Reports suggest North Korea has already supplied over 10,000 troops and various weapons to Russia, with more support potentially on the way. Lavrov stated that Putin hopes to hold another face-to-face meeting with Kim soon. In a show of growing ties, Russia has also announced 2 weekly direct flights between Moscow and Pyongyang. Trump announces 30% tariffs on EU and Mexican imports. Global backlash follows. U.S. President Donald Trump has declared that starting August 1st, his administration will impose a 30% tariff on all imports from the European Union and Mexico. The move sparked immediate outrage across Europe. The EU called the measure provocative and threatened to respond with reciprocal tariffs. Leaders from France, the Netherlands, and other EU countries denounced the decision, warning that it could trigger inflation and damage global trade ties. Trump claims the tariffs will strengthen U.S. manufacturing, but analysts warn it could strain alliances and deepen economic instability. Trump's Africa summit called a stage show by critics, not a true partnership. President Trump recently hosted a 3-day summit with 5 African leaders, but the event drew sharp criticism for its tone and purpose. Rather than promoting equal partnerships, many described the gathering as a display of personal showmanship, with African nations presented more as props than participants. The leaders invited were from Gabon, Mauritania, Libya, Guinea-Bissau, and Senegal, whom Trump referred to as representing all of Africa, a statement widely seen as inaccurate and patronizing. During the summit, Mauritania's president praised Trump as a global peace icon, claiming he had stopped the Israel-Iran war, a statement made while the U.S. continues to back Israel in Gaza. In one awkward exchange, Trump was surprised that Liberia's President Joseph Boakai spoke fluent English, despite English being Liberia's official language since 1822. In another moment that raised eyebrows, Trump complimented an African journalist solely on her appearance, sparking accusations of sexism and cultural insensitivity. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who campaigned on a platform of political independence, suggested Trump build a golf course in Senegal. Critics found the comment disappointing, saying it undercut his promise of a new, independent African leadership voice. Trump closed the summit by saying, "These friends might just escape the tariffs because now they're my friends." The event stood in stark contrast to the 2022 U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit under President Biden, which focused on genuine dialogue, investment, and Africa's long-term strategic goals. And now, let's take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. Football in bulk. Municipality team wins local tournament. In Didadi district of Balkh province, a local football tournament concluded with the municipality team winning the championship. In the final match, They defeated the Code Bark team 1-0. Arm wrestling competition in Uruzgan. In Tarinkot, the provincial capital of Uruzgan, 30 athletes competed in a one-day arm wrestling contest. 15 of them emerged victorious and received awards for their achievements. That concludes today's news bulletin from Zir News 24. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Just search for Zir News 24. Until our next broadcast, take care and goodbye.